The Indiana Fever just won their easiest game of the season against the weakest team they could possibly face. The Indiana Fever just won their easiest game of the season against the weakest team they could possibly face.
The Chicago Sky's season just took a devastating turn, and Angel Reese's raw reaction says it all. In a heartbreaking moment that left fans in shock, a key teammate went down with a crushing injury, and the emotional aftermath was impossible to ignore. Reese's face told the story: frustration, pain, and the gut-wrenching reality of seeing a sister in battle go down. Was this a fluke accident, or a sign of deeper issues in the WNBA's physical demands? We're breaking down the injury, the team's immediate response, and what this means for their championship hopes. The locker room vibe? Tense. The fan reaction? Heartbroken. Stay tuned. This story is still unfolding, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The Sky's collapse. A story of emotion versus execution. The Chicago Sky's season hung in the balance until one brutal moment sent it all crashing down. Angel Reese's reaction told the whole story, hands clutching her head, eyes wide with disbelief. It wasn't just the shock of a teammate's injury, it was the sinking realization that even at full strength, they couldn't keep up with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. The game had been a tense, back-and-forth battle, electric with energy, until the injury sucked the life out of Chicago's momentum. Indiana smelled blood in the water, and Clark, ever the assassin, moved in for the kill. What followed was a clinic in cold, calculated dominance. No excessive celebrations, no trash talk, just methodical destruction. While the Sky unraveled emotionally, the Fever locked in. Reese's visible anguish exposed a deeper flaw. Chicago runs on passion, not poise. When the moment demanded steel nerves, they cracked. Clark, meanwhile, didn't just withstand the pressure, she thrived in it. The irony was undeniable. The Sky prided themselves on grit and swagger, but when adversity struck, it was Clark who stood tall. This wasn't just a game, it was a psychological battle. Reese's raw reaction, though human, revealed an uncomfortable truth. The Sky weren't ready for the moment. And Caitlin Clark? She made sure the entire league saw it. In the end, the scoreboard told one story, but the real lesson was about mental toughness, and Indiana had it in spades. The mental divide, Clark's command versus Reese's breakdown. This was Caitlin Clark's defining moment, not just as a standout player, but as the undisputed alpha. When chaos erupted and pressure mounted, Clark operated with machine-like precision. While Angel Reese remained paralyzed by the unfolding disaster, her body language screaming shock and frustration, Clark moved with the calm assurance of someone who'd trained for this very scenario. Her poise wasn't merely admirable, it was clinical, executing plays with the detached efficiency of a surgeon. The contrast couldn't have been more striking. Reese, who built her reputation on fiery passion, found herself emotionally hijacked by the moment. Clark, meanwhile, treated the court like a chessboard, anticipating moves, creating angles, and sinking contested threes with casual mastery. Where Reese saw crisis, Clark saw opportunity. The timeout after the injury told the story. Reese stuck reeling, Clark already mapping her next attack. This was never just about skill sets. The chasm between them revealed itself in mental fortitude. When the game demanded resilience, Clark ascended, while Reese crumbled. No trash talk needed. Clark's quiet dominance spoke volumes. As Indiana seized control, Chicago buckled under expectations' weight. Clark wasn't merely participating, she was dictating terms. In those crucial minutes, she didn't just win the game, she announced her supremacy. The scoreboard reflected a victory, but the real lesson was about championship mentality, and Clark proved she's already mastered it. When momentum shifts, how Clark capitalized on Chicago's collapse. In basketball, emotion is currency, and Chicago spent theirs all at once. The Sky's collective gasp when their teammate fell was palpable, a visible fracture in their composure. But games aren't won on sympathy. Caitlin Clark, ever the opportunist, recognized that momentary vulnerability like a shark scenting chum. While Chicago's players exchanged worried glances, Clark was already in motion, threading needle passes, pulling up from the logo, treating the court like her personal playground. This wasn't opportunistic play. This was a systematic takeover. Each Clark basket sent electric currents through Indiana's bench, their energy building exponentially. Reese tried to rally her troops. The desperate claps, the strained encouragement. But leadership requires more than gestures when foundations crumble. The Sky's belief had already fractured, and Clark methodically widened those cracks into irreparable fissures. The fundamental difference? Reese reacted to circumstances while Clark dictated them. Where one saw adversity, the other saw advantage. Clark's genius lies in her predatory instinct. She doesn't weather storms, she harnesses them. This was basketball as psychological warfare, and Clark played the long game. Reese, burdened by the emotional toll, found herself always a step behind, watching helplessly as the game slipped away. In the end, it wasn't just about points scored, but pressure applied, and Clark proved masterful at both. The final buzzer merely confirmed what everyone had witnessed. One player thrived under intensity, while the other merely survived it. When brute force meets surgical precision. Chicago's game plan was written in the bruises: clutch, grab, and disrupt at all costs. They threw their weight around, delivering punishing screens and body checks whenever Clark ventured into the paint. But physicality has its limits against a player who operates on another intellectual plane. Clark didn't just absorb the punishment, she weaponized it, transforming every hard foul into another data point in her basketball algorithm. By the second half, Chicago's aggressive defense revealed its fatal flaw. It was reactionary, not strategic. Clark dissected their pressure with the precision of a point guard savant, her dribble breaking ankles while her eyes manipulated entire defenses. Reese's overzealous closeouts became passing lane invitations, her physical advantages neutralized by Clark's spatial awareness. What began as intimidation tactics devolved into defensive breakdowns, each possession exposing Chicago's tactical poverty. The contrast in offensive execution was equally damning. While Indiana's sets unfolded with Swiss watch timing, backdoor cuts materializing as Clark's no-look deliveries arrived, Chicago's offense resembled a pickup game at the YMCA. No structure, no counters, just individual efforts collapsing under defensive scrutiny. Physical dominance might win battles, but basketball cognition wins wars. Clark didn't just withstand the storm, she redirected its energy back at Chicago with compound interest. The final lesson? You can't bully brilliance out of the game. The weight of leadership, Reese's struggle versus Clark's steady hand. Angel Reese carried Chicago's hopes like Atlas bearing the world. With visible strain, the injury to her teammate transformed her role from emotional spark plug to desperate savior, a burden too heavy even for her considerable talents. History had proven her passion could ignite rallies, but against Caitlin Clark's glacial composure, that same fire became her undoing. Reese's performance devolved into a study in diminishing returns, wild drives into traffic, defensive lapses, even her trademark rebounding losing its methodical precision. The harder she pushed, the more the game slipped away. Chicago didn't need hysterical heroics. They needed the disciplined execution Clark delivered with metronomic consistency. While Reese chased momentum, Clark controlled it through measured decisions and ruthless efficiency. The contrast in leadership styles crystallized in the game's critical moments. Reese's body language broadcast mounting frustration, slumped shoulders, exasperated gestures, while Clark's quiet confidence radiated through every possession. Indiana's star didn't need to force the action. The game came to her, and she was always prepared. When championship poise was required, Clark operated like a veteran general, while Reese resembled a soldier firing blindly. The final verdict was written in their team's performances, one elevated by calm leadership, the other undone by emotional overload. In the arena of mental fortitude, Clark didn't just win, she provided the blueprint for winning basketball. The ripple effect of excellence. Caitlin Clark operates on a different wavelength, one that recalibrates entire teams to her frequency. While Chicago's offense sputtered in isolation, Clark's presence created a gravitational pull that organized Indiana into perfect sync. Each assist wasn't just a pass, but a tutorial in spacing. Every deep three served as both points on the board and a psychological dagger. This phenomenon transcends statistics. The Fever Bench's electric reactions weren't mere celebration, but visible manifestations of Clark's contagious confidence. Her teammates didn't just play better, they believed differently. Meanwhile, Chicago's disjointed efforts expose their fundamental flaw. Basketball requires 5 coordinated parts, not 5 simultaneous solos. Reese's admirable efforts to unite her team only highlighted the chasm between forced leadership and organic influence. Clark's command requires no vocal insistence. Her court vision and decision-making provide all the direction Indiana needs. When momentum shifted, Clark didn't ride the wave, she became its current. The final distinction lay in intentionality. Reese responded to the game's ebbs and flows. Clark authored them. Chicago brought intensity, but Indiana deployed intelligence. In the arena of elite basketball, where milliseconds separate makes from misses, Clark's anticipatory genius didn't just win the game, it redefined what winning looks like. A defining moment in the rivalry's evolution. The injury transformed this matchup from mere competition into something more profound, a psychological case study in contrasting approaches to adversity. Reese's visceral reaction, captured in that viral moment of despair, stood in stark relief against Clark's clinical detachment. What began as another chapter in their manufactured rivalry suddenly gained authentic gravity. This wasn't about skill differentials, but rather crisis management. Reese embodied the emotional toll of the moment, her face a roadmap of frustration and concern. Clark projected the eerie calm of a surgeon mid-procedure, methodically dismantling opponents while maintaining professional distance. The injury, while unrelated to their direct competition, became the crucible that tested their mental frameworks. Clark's response, respectful yet relentless, crystallized her emerging reputation as the league's steadying force. Where Reese represents the WNBA's passionate present, Clark increasingly appears as its calculating future. The injury didn't create this narrative, but it exposed its truth with sudden clarity. In the aftermath, we're left with indelible images, Reese's raw humanity versus Clark's competitive machinery. Both valid, but only one consistently wins games. The tragedy provided unexpected illumination, revealing not just who these players are today, but what they might become tomorrow. A game that revealed more than pain. This matchup wasn't just defined by a devastating injury. It laid bare the mental and competitive gaps between these teams. Chicago's pain was undeniable, but so was their unraveling. Angel Reese fuels the sky with passion, but emotion unchecked becomes a liability. Tonight, it boiled over. On the other side, Caitlin Clark was ice, focused, unshaken. The injury wasn't just a setback, it was a trial. Indiana didn't capitalize on misfortune, they simply refused to blink. That's composure, that's growth, and above all, that's leadership. Clark proved why she's the league's next cornerstone, not with theatrics, but with steel nerves. Reese will recover, she's too talented not to, but this was a lesson. The WNBA notices, the fans see it. More than a loss, this was a statement. When the final buzzer sounded, one reality stood undeniable. Caitlin Clark isn't just competing, she's ahead. Reese let emotion rule her, Clark let it fuel her. And at this level, that's what separates fading heartache from forging legacy. One injury, one reaction. And just like that, the Chicago Sky season hangs in the balance. Angel Reese's emotional response mirrored what every fan felt: disbelief, heartbreak, and the harsh reality of sports. What do you think? Will they overcome this setback? Or is their playoff dream in serious jeopardy? Sound off in the comments and let's discuss. If this moment hit you as hard as it hit us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional, unfiltered sports coverage. Stay locked in because the comeback story starts now.